So welcome, Mavis. Thank you so much for coming along to our Deeper Peace of Mind and doing this short course with me on the most wonderful topic, I think, of unconditional love. So welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So I don't know why those were the two words that came to me when I knew I wanted to create a course with you, because we've had some wonderful conversations recently.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking, what would I love to ask you about? They just the words, that was just what came out at the end of my fingers when I was typing the email. You must remind me of this idea. You somehow I connect you with those words. And so I know that I've felt that feeling of love in your presence. And so I thought you might be a wonderful person to share with us your understanding of that. So I'm going to throw a big open question at you right at the start, which is, to your mind, what is love?
Well, I was thinking about it just a few minutes ago, and the words are really explain themselves. It's like love that has nothing to do with conditions. And in my world, it's the universal intelligence that all life is. It has nothing to do with personal affection or preferences or likes or dislikes or any of that. It's just the energy that we're made of, which is good, because if it was something else, there are lots of times I'd have trouble drumming it up. So it's good that it's who I am. It's what I'm made of. It's what everything is. So that has nothing to do with personality.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I will ask you more about that. But
so I can experience who I am in that love, but still not like a lot of stuff, and still create an experience of hatred and horror, but I'm still made of unconditional love. I'm still made of that. But like a lot of people, there are times when I don't know, my brain's lying to me. And so I don't feel the love that I'm made of.
yeah, that's so simple, isn't it?
I think so. I think so. And that's simple as you know, is real different than simplistic. Simple can be really, really deep and encompass truths that we may never be able to explain to ourselves, but we know them. We can feel truth. So, yeah, it's simple.
Yeah, when you're talking, it reminds what comes to me is that what you're saying essentially is it's love first, everything else afterwards. Everything else is after the fact of that.
Well, yeah, love just is. It just is. It's everything. It just is. So we don't have to take care of that. We don't have to try to find it or search for it or earn it or any of that. It just is. It's all taken care of. Thank goodness.
Yeah, there isn't, I wouldn't imagine there can be a human being alive that doesn't know what we're talking about when we talk about love.
They may not know they know. They know. They know. I think people think, this might be a little off topic. I think it might just seem so, but I think people think that, for instance, I have 3 children. If personal love were the only love, then I don't unconditionally love my kids all the time. Sometimes I just like to smack them right up the head. I don't, I don't always love them, but that deeper love, oh no, that's there no matter what. And because I know that, I don't feel horrible when I don't love someone. I just know I'm just being kind of judgmental, or they're behaving in a way that I just think is horrible or whatever. But underneath, I know we're both from the same source.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit more about the difference between those two, the personal love and this more impersonal, feels like a bigger space of love. But there's a difference between the two, because my guess is that if someone's been attracted to the title of this course, it might be because they're curious about, well, I've heard of this thing called unconditional love, but I don't know, like, really? Like, even when they do this and even when they do that, and how can I love them when they da 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 da? And I hear this term used maybe in the 3 principles community of this unconditional love. But why would you love anyone who does that? Like, I don't understand how that's possible. Like, what do you mean love somebody even when they're doing this? And that's kind of not what we mean, but that would be the common understanding of the word love, right? Like that people think, oh, well, I love my husband, I love my children, I love my cat. I know what you mean when you say love, but it's unconditional in that respect.
That's
different. It's kind of like what you were saying with your kids, right? Sorry, mate.
Love is based on conditions.
Say that again.
Personal love is based on conditions, because you can just totally fall in love with someone and in a split second fall out of love with them. Now, that has nothing to do with anything except your thinking.
Right. So I want to ask you about that first before we get to the next bit, because I know we can hear, I know there'll be people listening who have heard about unconditional love and beat themselves up because that isn't their experience. Like, if I only understood the principles, I would love this person unconditionally. And hand on heart, I have to say, when I look at it, that's not true. There are conditions. And so I feel bad. I feel like I'm failing as a mother, as a wife, as a husband, as a pet owner, whatever, right? Like, as a friend, because I know I should be loving unconditionally, and yet
yes, but who made that up?
Yeah.
Who made that up? That no matter what, we should experience love towards our fellow human being. Who made that up?
That's going to be such a relief for people to hear that they're off the hook for that.
See, creating love with your, personal affection and adoration and all of that with your thinking, that's one thing. But being that deeper, powerful, what you're made of love, you can't not be that.
Yeah.
You too late, you can't not be that. Creation took care of it. So those are really different things. We just named them the same, but they're really different things.
So say more I know you have been talking, but like, so we are made of love. So what?
So
Like that's a lovely idea.
no, it's not just an idea.
No, but I'm playing devil's advocate. It's a lovely idea, but I get the theory of it. It's really nice, but so what? Why does that make a difference to my life or my anxiety or my relationships? But if I'm not feeling personal love, I'm not in a feeling of love. Who cares what I'm made of if it's not part of my experience?
That sounds like a bad mood.
No, it would be a genuine question.
I
Right?
understand that, but if I'm not asking anybody to believe me about this.
Mm.
That's not my job. I'm telling you the way I see it.
Yeah.
And the problem is we're using the same word for two different things. And any particular question that comes up about that would have to, in order for me to answer it, I'd have to start over and say, those are two different things. So when somebody is feeling resentment or crankiness or judgment or being ornery or hateful or whatever, they're creating that experience with their thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're also creating that experience when you're not doing that and you're just kind of relaxed and in the moment. And you tend then to experience compassion and kindness and well-being and hopefulness and love of a personal nature.
Mm.
Mhm. But if you understand that deep feeling of wholeness and connectedness to the whole, that's love with all capital letters. Nothing has to be going on for that. Nobody has to behave in a certain way. You don't have to have a list of people that love you in order to feel that. You are feeling your very existence when you're feeling love in all capital letters.
So the way you see it, Mavis, is love another word for mind, the energy behind life, the oneness behind life? Is it the same thing?
I use it that way.
Yeah.
Words are ours to use the way we want to use them.
Yeah. I guess that's what I see as the pre-existing, right? Is the, and I was saying kind of before.
Like Sid said, it's the isness.
Yeah, the allness and the isness.
He used to say he was in the isness business. He was going to get cards made with that. Sid Banks, isness.
Yeah. What would Sid? I've heard a few stories, but I don't know if you ever had a conversation with Sid about love. Is it something that he would talk about?
Having a conversation with Sid feels like love.
Yeah. Touche.
I never had one specifically about the topic, no.
But when you say having a conversation with Sid is to know that love, right? Like, say a little more about that.
I don't know if there is more to say about that. He just was the warmest, dearest man. And not everybody that has a tremendous insight stops everything in order to pass it on to everybody else. Not everybody does that.
Mm.
He did. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of people just like to keep it for themselves, you know, dish it out in little pieces and hoard it, whatever the insight is. He didn't.
Yeah. And I see that's kind of behind when I think of the work that we do when we work with people.
It's
Like
really
if I,
hard work, isn't it?
sorry,
It's really hard work, isn't it?
it's such
Oh
hard
my God, it's just grueling. Right?
work. It's the way I see it. Like when I think about the practitioner, like when I'm talking to practitioners about the work that we do, or like what I'm when I'm working to help people become practitioners, I see the whole focus of the work that we do is that as they see what Sid was pointing to more deeply for themselves, as they get touched by the principles, the whole point of the training I'm doing with them is to help them touch that space such that they fill up with love, that the overflow of that becomes the work that they do. But to my mind, that's it. That's all we're up to.
Mhm.
And I think, what a wonderful job.
Yeah.
They're becoming familiar with that space of love, the feeling of personal love that comes when you touch that space, but also to my mind, that space of love is a space that holds every feeling and every emotion and every event and every circumstance. It's to my mind, it's a space that welcomes all of it.
Mhm.
Can contain, can control, not control, can contain, can untainted by any of it. That's to my mind how it seems to me, this space of impersonal love.
Plain, isn't it?
It's what, sorry?
It's hard to explain, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we know it.
Yeah.
And that's all we actually need. It's I would give up being able to teach this. If I had to choose between knowing it and teaching it, I'd give up teaching it in a split second.
Yeah.
Because when you know that everything's all right, that you have everything you need, you don't have to earn it, you don't have to accomplish it, you don't have to become someone else, that you're the only you. There isn't ever been anybody else exactly like you. You're it. And when you just really see that, and see that when you quit trying to find love, when you quit trying to find something that you think you don't have, and you get still enough, you meet yourself, your home. And that isn't something that that happens once and done, and you're blissed out the rest of your life. That's your choice all the time. We're choosing either have it or not all the time. We just don't know yet. But that's not our fault. Nobody told me who I was. I got a lot of information about how much I wasn't enough from God knows where. But that's because they didn't know what enough was. They didn't know it. They didn't know that we are enough. Not just barely enough. We are absolutely enough. And that's because we're made of love. It's not like there's something better than that. That if we behave really well, we'll get something better than that. No, that's it. That's already taken care of. And we listen to our brain saying, well, yeah, but what about this and what about that? And it's unbelievable how many of us can prove that we're not enough. We can prove it because this happened and that happened and we did this and we did that and we've got all this proof. None of it's true. None of it. But we didn't know that. We didn't know that we were building a case for our faults, building a case for the fact that we're not enough. We didn't know that. I mean, I wouldn't have spent 40 years doing that if I knew it was optional.
Yeah. So there's so many directions to go in with that, but it's for like when you work with or when you speak to, there are people in our community that experience what they would describe as serious anxious thinking, chronic and acute anxious thinking all day, every day. And that's their experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
And every now and again, they might have a moment of peace where they connect. They're looking at a beautiful sunset or, hugging a small child or any of those things, or just busy washing the dishes, right? And they forget that they're anxious and scared. And I'll be listening to you saying, that's not my life. My life is one of just trying to hang on by the fingernails. And I'm so scared all the time. Love schmuv, Mavis. Like how do I get some of that? How do I find that? It sounds lovely. And I know what you're saying is, but you're still made of it, even in that experience, right? Because you can't not be.
Well, that's so innocent, though. I mean, what you described is world champ warriors.
Yeah.
And it's a very popular habit, but it's a habit. But it's very popular. And isn't it, I used to be great at it. I had a mom that was even better at it than I was. So I got a really good coach. And we worried for really good reasons. We worried because we thought it prevented disasters, which it doesn't. But we worried then because we thought it was the same as being responsible. No, that's not true. We thought it was the same as caring. Nope, it's not that either. But we didn't know that. So we worried for perfectly good reasons that we thought were necessary. And that's why we walked around feeling unsafe all the time. The very thing that we were doing to try to prevent disasters was leaving us feeling unsafe all the time. Now that's not fair. That you put so much into trying to prevent horrible things from happening, and it makes you feel unsafe all the time. It's a tad ironic
That's, I just heard you say something like the worrying is what's making you feel unsafe.
That's right. So you do more of it. Like right now, you and I, since we're alone here, but when people watch this, they could, if they wanted to, take a minute and close their eyes and see if they could get themselves scared. And I bet it would take a split second for all of them. Me too.
Yeah, me too.
And they would feel it. They would feel it physically. They might feel it in their jaw. They might feel it in the catch in their throat. They might feel a heaviness in their heart or a knot in their stomach. But they would feel it physically. Now, isn't that amazing? That you can't slip a thought by your body. It's going to let you know instantly the quality of the thinking you're doing. Now, that's love. That's universal love. That we are so taken care of that every time we misuse the gift of creating our life, thinking, a feeling tells us so. But it also tells us so when we're calm, when we're in the moment, when we're just alive and aware. It gives us a sensation about that too. That is the most remarkable guidance system. It's unfailing. I remember the late Christopher Reeve, who was known for playing Superman. And then he had this terrible accident where he was paralyzed from the neck down. And he wrote a book, he wrote articles in a book, but he talked about how he could still feel physically emotions. Now that's love. That's love. So you want to see that anxiety and worry are just the totally innocent misuse of the gift of creating your own experience through thinking. It's so innocent. But you do want to see that fear is on your side. It's a sensation that lets you know when you're frightening yourself with your own thinking. And it never gives up on you. Isn't that amazing? Your phone and your battery can go dead, your car can go dead, all kinds of, man-made instruments will fail. Not your own divine engineering. Fear is just love in disguise. So that knot in your stomach, that's your best friend saying, excuse me, follow me. I'll show you the way out of these woods.
And then what?
You come home and you realize, oh my God, I'm fine. I just created an imaginary disaster. And then it felt like it was real. I know how to do that. I haven't forgotten. I know how to do that. It's in my How Not to Do Things book in my library. But every once in a while, I'll forget and go, oh my God, what if? Everything starts with what if? What if this happens? What if this? What if I don't do? What if?
Yeah.
And it's just a totally useless habit. If it worked to keep us safe, it would have worked by now.
So I don't know if you have the answer to this, but like with a system that's designed in favor of love, right? Like it's got a bias towards love. Why fear and anxiety? Like, why is that even part of the human experience? Like, why?
So you don't know when you forgot what you for.
So why forget though? Like, why couldn't we have an experience? Why aren't humans designed to have an experience without, like, can we not learn something that means that we don't keep doing that to ourselves? Why are we born with the capability to scare ourselves?
Well, don't you think free will is a good idea? I do. I think free will is a good idea.
Say more about that.
That we're free to choose the experience of life.
Say more about that, because it doesn't always look to me like that's true.
Well, how many times have you decided not to do something or to do something?
And 5 million times a day.
Of free will.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to make any difference as to whether I actually do or don't, I think. But with my thinking, like my mind was churning about, I don't even can't even remember what last night, but in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. And I know it's thought. I know it's not. I'm not going to experience that in the morning. I know that the content of what I'm thinking about is going to look ridiculous in the morning. I know that in the throes of doing it. But all I wanted to do was sleep, and I did not have the choice to put that thought down. That's what it felt like to me. It's like if I had free will, I would just go, hang on a minute, this is a pointless waste of time, and then go back to doing something more productive, like sleeping. I don't have that choice.
Yeah,
if I did, I would have exercised it at 3 o'clock this morning. That's the way it seems to me when I'm.
Yeah. So when you are tired, you tend to have a lot of thoughts about what you can't do, either awake or asleep. I mean, everything seems so hard, if not impossible, when our spirits are low and we're overthinking everything. But you know, there's something else I like to make friends with, is an attitude about myself. An attitude, well, so what? So you're not sleeping tonight. Get up and do something. You can lay here and stew, but you'll eventually get enough sleep. It's not like I speak to myself that way. I just know that.
Yeah.
So I file it all on the so what file. It's like a woman can't get to sleep. The networks are not going to pick up that story. It's just not that serious. But when we're tired, our habit of taking everything so seriously goes, da, she's tired, let's go get her, right? But it just doesn't matter unless we make it matter. That happens to me.
But with regard to free will, where like
you can take it seriously or not.
And again, it didn't feel, I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? But it didn't feel like that at 3 in the morning. It didn't feel like there was any option about it, to take it seriously, to not take it seriously, to put it down, to have it go in a different direction, to like powerless, like an onslaught of thought. nothing I could do about it. No free will.
See, that's the thinking that you were doing. That's not going to feel good.
Yeah.
And your feelings are letting you know that. You just forgot that. You thought this was an exception. That's not the worst mistake I ever heard. It's really common for us to do that. To, I've had a habit of lots of times when I'm tired, and I'll have a habit of this little parade of mistakes I've made in my life will kind of, they go ta-da, and they start marching through my head. And most of the time I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But sometimes I take it really seriously.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, why does anybody listen to me about anything? Because I have just made so many mistakes.
Yeah, we have our favorite go-tos, don't we, when we're called out.
We get that, and we don't always remember it as soon as we'd like to, but we get it.
Yeah, I guess, and I know I keep spiraling back round to it, and I don't have the answer for it, but
well, actually, you do.
And well, maybe I do, but like I think when people bump into this conversation, one of the things they really get caught with is this concept of free will on a bigger scale, but just in terms of like being on a train of thought that is unproductive and unhelpful and, to be quite frankly, boring, because we've heard all these terrible things about ourselves and our future and our lives so many times, and about somehow it feels like some teachers will teach there's a choice, there's free will. Sid would sometimes talk about free will. Oh, you don't want to go that way. You don't want to do that. You don't want to use your mind like that, as if there's a choice. and then other times we'll see that in our own experience, that just doesn't look true at all. It doesn't feel like there is any choice. We're here and we're stuck, and we would give our right arms for this thought to jump off this thought train, and there's nothing we can do to make that happen. No free will at all. And then we beat ourselves up even more because apparently there is free will. We're obviously just not using it very well. And so there's a whole load of confusion and getting caught up and with this whole idea of free will, that, and I know, and I kind of like, there's like, well, surely I should be able to, or how can I get off this train of thought, or how do I, am I doing the principles wrong, right? Like if I understood the principles, then I'd be able to jump off the thought train. If I understood the principles, I wouldn't care that I was on the thought train. Like there's like, I have lots of like, oh, well, if I understood the principles, then blah, blah, blah. We've had that conversation before and loads of made up things about it. But I keep circling back round, and I guess it's because none of us really understand the concept of free will entirely. But sometimes Sid would talk about free will as if we had choice, and sometimes he would say there's no such thing. And that contradiction, to my mind, I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. Sometimes it looks like I can, sometimes it looks like I can't, and that's all I've got. But you're really clear about, you sound really certain. No, there is choice here. There is a free will with how you use your mind.
I would make that up. People are making choices all the time. That's what a choice is. We can pick this or this or this or this or this. We're doing it all the time, thousands of times a day. So who am I to say there's no free will?
Mm. And it's funny, isn't it? Because when I just think this is such a lovely thing to notice. We get caught up and go off up into the concepts about whether we agree or disagree, or whether we divide the world and what we do and how we do it. And as we do that, we take ourselves kind of away from the feeling of love, isn't it? Like love is simpler, it's undivided.
We're creating anxiety and hopelessness, and we're building a case for not being enough, and we can do that forever. If you want to do that with your ability to create your experience, you can do that.
Yeah,
you can do that. And your senses will keep letting you know how badly that works.
Yeah, but even in real time in our conversation, that's what I love. Like, and I don't know, it might be really subtle for people, maybe not for people who are listening and watching, but you can see that's what I get eyes for more of the time these days. It's like, hang on a minute, I'm getting really up in my head about something.
How do you know?
And you can, because you can feel.
That's right.
You can feel it. That's what you're pointing to, right? So it's
keep doing it if you want.
Yeah, and it's letting you know, like, suddenly I twig and I'm like, this is to prove your point, right? This is not the direction. And then so I choose stop, and we fall back into love again, but like into oneness instead of division, into connection instead of separation, and the feeling of that.
We're always connected. We're just not always feeling it.
Yeah.
Because we're up here building a case for the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's good to remember you don't get paid by the thought. It's really good to remember that. It's not about quantity. It's about quality. And that's what our senses are telling us all the time.
Yeah.
There's a feeling that lets us know when we're eating, when we're full. But we can keep eating. There's a feeling that lets us know when we're cold, but we don't have to put a sweater on. There's a feeling that lets us know when there's a rock in our shoe. We can leave it there. Free will. It's not rocket science. It just is. And it's really, really helpful to see what just is. Because you spend a lot of time not worrying.
Yeah, that's what just occurred to me when you said that, because if something just is, there's not even anything to think about it. It's just like, there isn't anything to think about it. And so much of our life, we are thinking about it, about stuff, about our thinking, about our lives, about our kids, about love. Like, how do I get love? How do I make them love me? Will they love me more? Will they love me less? What can I do to create this feeling of love?
That's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. Just even talking about it is exhausting.
Yeah.
Because it's all taken care of.
So from a parenting perspective, right, this is one of the areas I'm really interested in, this whole topic of unconditional love. And I know we've touched on it anyway, but you just said there, it's exhausting, right? One of the reasons I'm really interested in this whole, exploring this whole area, I was talking to Dickie Bettinger actually about, and I've spoken to you as well about, my kids have struggled over the last year or so through COVID and lockdown and all this. And one of the things Dickie said to me was like, oh, this is what this is inviting you to take a look at, is really see, like, drop another layer to an even deeper exploration and see what there is to see here about the nature of unconditional love.
But he doesn't mean, I know Dickin, he doesn't mean like think more about it.
No. And he doesn't mean learn how to have a feeling of love for them no matter what they're up to. That's right. What I'm seeing in what you're saying now. And I know that I've definitely been innocently guilty of like, well, if I make them what they want for dinner, maybe they'll love, like with the invisible thing, like then they'll love me more. If I can help them not be so stressed out, that's my job as a parent. And if I can help them not be so stressed out, then we will have more love in our house. If I can get the right color bread, they'll like me. If I can buy them the right shoes, if I can pick them up and not be late, if I can let them go to that party, if I can give them more time on TikTok. And it's all with this underlying running thing of like, oh, then there'll be more love in our household. Then they will love me more. Then it'll be easier to love them. And that, like you're saying, is exhausting. It's futile. But it's a hamster wheel of getting nowhere. And so the alternative is something that I am doors open, want to learn more about. I'm totally up for dropping all of that and seeing something deeper about that.
We can't see something deeper until we quit chasing thoughts all over the place. It's like you can't see something until you quit trying to figure it out. You just can't. It's all that noise is like, say you're in your car and you're trying to listen to some music on the stereo and there's static. Trying to figure things out is like turning up the volume. That's not going to help. You're not going to be able to hear the music better when they're static by turning up the volume. Tune the static out. What's left is the music.
Yeah.
Our egos just think we have to prove how smart we are by trying to figure it out. You can be the smartest person in the world and not be able to understand something until you quit trying to figure it out.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? I think we kind of go from innocently running around, not trying to figure it out because it's unquestioned. Like I'm just running around doing things with this invisible, to me, layer of thought and belief and understanding that that's the way it works, right? That you have to do stuff. Again, the ego is trying to prove itself to find love, but without any awareness of it. And then you suddenly bump into someone who points in a different direction, and you suddenly see it all and realize the exhausting nature of it. And then you're right. Like for me, it's like that an invisible door has just opened and made itself known to me. And now my mind wants to go and explore what's through the door, which is what you're saying, right? Like you can't figure that out, but you can let yourself fall through the trap door into a deeper understanding, but you can't figure out which corridors to go down to get there. Like that would be crazy. But it's, to me, that conversation with Dickin had opened a trap door I didn't even know was there to something I had never considered, like that I was running around in a world of misunderstanding and I didn't know it. Oh, well, again.
There's just one reason for that. You didn't know that you were always feeling your thinking. You didn't know that. You didn't know that your feelings were giving you vital information every moment you're alive on how to, on the quality of the experience you're creating. You didn't know that. And that's like trying to put a puzzle together without the main piece. It's not your fault you didn't know it. It's not anybody's fault we didn't know it. But once you know it, all that overthinking gets unbearably loud. Not because you got worse, because you start having some moments of calm. And compared to that, overthinking is like throwing a hand grenade into your living room. It gets intolerably loud. Good news. Good news. Listen to that. It's the universe saying, shh, you'll be smarter again in a minute.
So funny though, isn't it? Because you, like I would have said to you, no, but maybe it's, I do know that I'm feeling my thinking. I know that I feel thought. I know that that's the only thing I can feel. I know that. And yet, obviously not. So, but that's, I love that about this conversation, is you think you got it and then quite obviously not. But I know, I do know.
There's more to see.
Always.
Yeah. You're seeing the same thing, just deeper.
Because it's so profound. Because it's so profound. Like we think it's so, oh yeah, okay, I feel my thinking. Right, I get that. Tick. It's like, no, that's a big deal. It's so profound, and we'll never truly understand that. So we get to, like you say, see it more and more deeply. And I know what you mean about the noise and the quiet, because in my work, I definitely have experienced that, from going from a million miles an hour all the time to having much more of an experience of calm, so that ramped up thinking experience is really like you say, it's like night and day. It's, I don't like that anymore. It's really obvious. And then in other areas of my life, like parenting, completely invisible. And even now, as you're saying it, I see that I did not see that the feeling of slight neediness, of slight, like me, please like me. If I do this, will you like me? That feeling, is the quality of that feeling shows me how I'm using my thinking. Well, I thought I was walking around in a feeling of love for my kids, but actually that feeling of sort of slight fear that they might go off on one, the worry of rejection, the slight neediness of the like me please, like all of the quality of that feeling shows you that you're misusing thought in that moment. And do, like a lot of it, like the overthinking part of it as well. How cool is that? That's really cool. Because you don't have to keep doing it. That's what's really cool about it. Like all of those awful, hard work, totally futile behaviors, they were never helpful anyway. Right. And yet you feel compelled to keep doing them when you think there's no other option. But when you start to see, oh, I've been walking around with a rock in my shoe. That's why I've been limping, and it's been really hard work to get around. Oh, I don't know. That's just really cool. It's like whenever I talk to you, I feel like I am off the hook, and a huge sense of relief.
It gets more and more, for me, I don't know about anybody else, it gets more and more uninteresting to talk about what I'm thinking about, why I'm thinking about it, how long have I been thinking about it. I don't care. It's not interesting to me. I just want to know, okay, how do I want to feel? What would I rather think about than be present and letting whatever I need come to me?
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in anything except that. Because when I get out of my head and make room for new thought, that's the good stuff. And it's always just there waiting until we shut up long enough to let it in.
Yeah. Thank you, Mavis. That's a beautiful point to finish off this one, and gives us so much to talk about, I'm sure, tomorrow as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.